Okay, so have you ever felt like you just get a handle on something and then boom, the rules change?
Happens all the time, right?
Exactly. Well, for anyone on the path to becoming a board-certified behavior analyst, a BCBA, there are some pretty significant updates coming down the pipeline.
Hmm.
So this deep dive, it's really designed to cut through all the jargon, give you the essential nuggets of what's changing, why these shifts matter, and, most importantly, how you can stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and it's crucial information. The Behavior Analyst Certification Board, the BACB, they've outlined new eligibility and maintenance requirements for BCBA certification, and these all take effect on January 1st, 2027.
Right.
So the document we're kind of exploring today, it's a really vital roadmap, especially if you're navigating your journey and maybe aren't quite sure yet whether you'll apply before or after that date.
Makes sense.
Our mission here is just to make sure you're comprehensively informed, but, without feeling totally overwhelmed by all the details.
Right. So whether you're currently deep in your BCBA studies, maybe just starting to think about it, or honestly just curious about professional certification standards, we're going to try and give you that vital shortcut to understanding these critical
Let's
shifts.
do it.
Okay, so let's dive into maybe one of the most impactful changes right off the bat, the pathways.
Yeah.
The ways you can actually become a BCBA, they're significantly narrowing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We're moving from what are currently sort of 4 distinct routes down to just 2. And that starts January 1, 2027.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just like fewer options. It feels like a strategic move by the BACB, maybe to streamline the quality and consistency, make it more standardized.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the idea. Beginning in 2027, the only 2 pathways available will be Pathway 1, that requires a master's or doctoral degree from an APBA accredited or ABA accredited or recognized behavior analysis program.
Okay.
And then there's Pathway 2, which focuses on specific behavior analytic coursework alongside a master's or higher degree.
Right.
Now, for anyone considering applying under what are currently Pathway 3 or 4, and those historically included routes for people with, say, doctoral degrees and specific experience, or those already holding a BSABA cert.
Yeah, I remember those.
Right. You absolutely must complete your application and meet all the current requirements before January 1st, 2027. That date is firm.
Okay, crystal clear. So with fewer pathways then, is the academic bar itself changing? Like, are the core degree requirements staying the same for those 2 remaining routes?
That's a good clarifying question. And good news there, actually. For both Pathway 1 and Pathway 2, the fundamental degree requirements, meaning, having a master's degree or higher, remain completely unchanged.
Phew. Okay, that's one stable point.
Right.
Or so while the degree requirement itself holds steady, the coursework structure for Pathway 2 applicants, that's getting a pretty significant overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about changing the total hours you said that still sits at 315.
Correct. 315 total hours.
But it's about how those hours are structured now and what actually counts as a freestanding course.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like having the same amount of ingredients, but a completely new recipe for putting them together.
That's a great analogy. And that new recipe, it brings several critical adjustments. Let's really break down these content area shifts, because this is where a lot of the strategic planning comes in for students.
Okay.
So first up, philosophical underpinnings and principles. Under the 2022 rules, philosophical underpinnings, concepts, and principles was like a 90-hour block, right?
Right.
With 45 hours taught in one freestanding course.
Right.
For 2027, this now explicitly splits into 2 distinct 45-hour freestanding courses: Basic Principles of Behavior and Theory and Philosophy in Behavior Analysis.
Okay, 2 separate ones.
Exactly. And the crucial point here is both Basic Principles and Theory and Philosophy must be completed as standalone, dedicated courses, no more combining them. It really emphasizes a deeper dive into each area.
Got it. Makes sense.
Wow.
What's next?
Okay, then research methods. What was previously measurement, data display, and interpretation, experimental design, 45 hours, 1 freestanding course. That largely just refines its title to Research Methods in Behavior Analysis. Still 45 hours, still 1 freestanding course. So this is less about a huge content change, more like a clearer label.
Okay, fairly straightforward there.
Then behavior assessment and intervention. Now this one is a big one.
Okay.
What was previously behavior assessment, 45 hours, and behavior change procedures, selecting and implementing interventions, which was 60 hours.
Right.
They're now combined under this umbrella of behavior assessment and intervention. And this now requires 90 content hours, but crucially across 2 freestanding courses for 2027.
Wow, okay. 2 courses for that combined topic.
Yes, so if your previous coursework maybe combined these topics or only covered them in a single course, you'll need to make sure you complete 90 hours across 2 distinct dedicated courses. It really underscores the importance of those practical applied skills.
Definitely. Yeah, what else?
Organizational Behavior Management, or OBM. The topic previously known as Personnel Supervision and Management, which was 30 hours,
Yeah.
is now explicitly called Organizational Behavior Management, and it requires 45 content hours in a freestanding course.
So an increase there.
Yep, a 15-hour increase, which kind of highlights the growing recognition of OBM's importance within the field, you know?
Absolutely. Okay, one more.
Last one is ethics. The 2022 requirements allowed BACB ethics code and code enforcement system professionalism that was 45 hours to be covered in one or more freestanding courses.
Right, you could potentially split it up.
Exactly. Now, for 2027, ethics and behavior analysis must be completed as one standalone 45-hour freestanding course, period.
Ah, okay. Consolidation there.
Right. It
Yeah.
can no longer be broken up. And this really emphasizes the BACB's commitment to a foundational, consistent ethical understanding, sort of reducing ambiguity, making sure everyone starts with that same ethical bedrock.
That's a lot of specific changes, especially around those freestanding course requirements. I can just imagine someone listening now and thinking, hang on, my program combines some of those elements.
Right.
So what's the practical implication for students whose coursework might span these changes? Or, maybe they're halfway through right now.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest mistake they could possibly make?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and it's probably causing some anxiety. If you completed some or maybe even all of your coursework under the 2022 requirements, but you plan to apply on or after January 1st, 2027, it is absolutely vital to meticulously review these specific content areas against your transcripts.
Okay.
The biggest mistake. Just assuming your existing coursework automatically translates or qualifies.
Assume.
Do not assume. We
Yeah.
strongly recommend meeting with your program advisor immediately, like as soon as possible.
Right.
They can help you review your coursework, confirm the exact number of content hours covered in each course, and really make sure you meet these more stringent 2027 standards. Don't wait.
Okay. Solid advice. Talk to your advisor.
Oh.
Now, let's turn our attention to supervised fieldwork.
Ah.
For many people listening, this is where the rubber truly meets the road, right? It impacts your day-to-day experience, your timeline.
Definitely.
And the requirements here, they seem tied directly to when you submit your certification application, which, wow, that makes planning incredibly important.
Incredibly important, yeah. If you're currently accruing supervised fieldwork hours and you're even slightly uncertain whether you'll apply before or after January 1st, 2027, honestly, the single best piece of advice is plan to meet both sets of requirements simultaneously.
Both.
Both. It sounds like more work than it is, but this proactive approach ensures your hours will be accepted regardless of your ultimate application date.
Right. It covers your bases.
Totally covers your bases.
Yeah.
This includes, diligently ensuring all the components are met for both sets of rules, maybe maintaining separate documentation systems just in case for potential audits, and just confirming all hours are accrued within that 5-year window, which remains consistent.
Okay, that's smart. Really smart. So let's dig into some of those specific differences then between the 2022 and 2027 fieldwork requirements, especially thinking about supervised versus concentrated fieldwork hours. What really shifts here?
Okay, so if we look at the broader implications, kind of surprisingly, the total hours for both supervised fieldwork, that's 2,000 hours, and concentrated fieldwork, 1,500 hours, those totals actually remain the same.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but several other critical aspects do change. Let's unpack those.
Right.
First, monthly hours. Under the 2022 requirements, you could accrue between 20 and 130 hours per month.
Okay, 20 to 130.
For 2027, this range expands slightly to 20 to 160 hours per month.
Okay, bit more flexibility potentially.
Potentially, but here's the catch. This raises an important point for planning. If you push it and accrue, say, 160 hours per month under the 2027 rules, but then you decide, oh wait, I can apply sooner under the 2022 rules, you'll actually have to adjust your submitted hours down to 130 or fewer per month for those months.
Oh, wow. Okay, so playing it safe might be better.
Exactly. If you simply stick to 130 hours or less per month, you're fine for both sets of rules. It's often the safest bet, especially if you're unsure.
Good tip. Okay, what else changes?
Observation requirements. This is another key difference. The 2022 requirements specify one observation with a client per month. Pretty straightforward.
One observation.
The 2027 requirements shift this. It becomes a duration-focused metric. 60 minutes per month for supervised fieldwork and 90 minutes per month for concentrated fieldwork.
So minutes instead of number of observations.
Exactly. Which means observations completed under the 2022 standards, just one observation might not automatically meet 2027 standards if the duration wasn't meticulously tracked and didn't meet the minute requirement.
Right. You might have done one 30-minute observation.
Precisely. So our recommendation here, track both. Track the number of client observations or contacts and their exact duration in minutes. That gives you maximum flexibility.
Track everything. Got it. Is there more?
Yes, one more really important one, especially for concentrated fieldwork. The concentrated fieldwork supervision percentage.
Okay.
This is a particularly fascinating and critical nuance. For concentrated fieldwork, the 2022 requirements demand a 10% supervision rate.
10%?
The 2027 requirements actually reduce this to 7.5%.
Oh, interesting. Lower supervision needed.
Lower percentage required, yes. But here's the crucial part and how it works in practice. If you accrue hours under the 2027 requirements with only 7.5% supervision, you cannot count those hours as concentrated fieldwork if you end up applying under the 2022 requirements, because those strictly demand 10%.
Whoa, okay. That's a one-way street kind of problem.
Exactly. But if you accrue concentrated fieldwork hours under the 2022 requirements, maintaining that 10% supervision rate, you can use those hours to meet the 2027 requirements because 10% obviously meets or exceeds the 7.5% threshold.
Okay, so aiming for the higher 10% standard covers you for both.
Precisely. It's an asymmetric risk, and it really drives home the need for careful planning, especially if concentrated fieldwork is your plan.
Wow, that's a critical distinction to really grasp. It sounds like the BACB is really emphasizing precision in how fieldwork is categorized and documented.
Very much so.
How might this impact, say, someone who's on a really tight timeline to get certified? And also, what about the actual paperwork, the forms? You mentioned documentation, those monthly and final fieldwork verification forms. How do you manage that transition with all these shifting pieces?
Right. So the monthly fieldwork verification forms, or MFVFs, and the final fieldwork verification forms, the FFVFs, they absolutely must align with the requirements that are in effect at the time you actually submit your application.
Okay, has to match the application date rules.
Has to match. So the simplest, safest way to ensure seamless compliance, especially if you're at all uncertain about your application date, is honestly to complete and meticulously retain both the 2022 and the 2027 forms each month with your supervisor.
Both forms, every month.
Both forms, every month. Keep them both signed, keep them both filed away safely. Now remember, these forms aren't actually submitted with your application packet initially.
Right, they're for audits mostly.
Exactly. But both you and your supervisor must retain all that fieldwork documentation for at least 7 years. And you have to be prepared to provide it to the BACB upon request, in case of an audit. So having both versions ready just makes sense.
Okay, belt and suspenders approach makes total sense given the stakes.
Yep.
All right, so amidst all these evolving requirements for pathways, coursework, fieldwork, it is certainly reassuring, I have to say, to know there's one area that seems to be holding steady: the BCBA examination itself.
Indeed. That's a point of stability, thankfully. As of January 1st, 2025, the BCBA examination has been based on the BCBA Test Content Outline, the 6th edition.
Okay.
And what's really reassuring for everyone planning to test is that there are no upcoming changes announced for the BCBA examination or its test content outline.
Great news.
Yeah. The BACB is now sort of approaching updates to the exam content independently of the certification requirement changes.
Decoupling them.
Exactly, which actually allows for potentially more frequent revisions to the exam itself if needed, reflecting new developments in the profession, changes in best practices without constantly disrupting the stability of the certification pathways themselves. It's quite a strategic move for agility, really.
That makes a lot of sense. Keeps the test current without messing up people's long-term plans as much.
Precisely.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think the biggest takeaway from our deep dive into these 2027 BCBA requirements is undeniably the power of proactive planning.
Absolutely.
Whether it's navigating those intricacies of the new coursework structure or strategically accruing your fieldwork hours and keeping meticulous documentation, being informed now gives you a significant, maybe even crucial advantage, wouldn't you say?
Couldn't agree more. And if we sort of connect this to the bigger picture, these updates really underscore the continuously evolving nature of professional standards and behavior analysis. It's about ensuring that new practitioners are equipped with the most relevant, most comprehensive knowledge for what is a really dynamic field.
Right.
And, this kind of raises an important question, maybe for all of us to think about. What does this kind of forward-looking adaptation by a certification board like the BACB tell us about the future of professional credentialing across various fields?
Oh, interesting point.
And maybe how might these specific changes influence the evolving role of a BCBA in the healthcare and education landscape in the years to come? It really just highlights that enduring value of, well, continuous learning and adaptability in pretty much any career path today.
Absolutely. Food for thought, planning, adaptability.
Mhm.
Sounds like the name of the game.
That's it.